Hello, everyone, and welcome to the last Real and Raw conversation of 2021. I can't believe we already had I think 10 episodes in total. The time has flown by, and I am delighted to have Hanna with me on the last Real and Raw conversation. Hello, Hanna. Oh,
Hello.
how are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm really good, thank you. How are you?
Awesome. I'm doing well. I'm ready to wrap all of the things up, even though I don't know why, but every year it seems like I prepare a banger of a ending for the season. So it's like I'm ready to just like wrap myself in a blanket and go to sleep for the entire winter. But there's still some things to left to be done, so I'm prepping for that and hoping it
Yeah.
all flies well so that come Christmas I can be happily and leisurely unwrapping my presents.
Yeah. Yes, no, same. I was hoping to get everything finished by tomorrow, but that's not going to happen. So I'm going to extend it to hopefully can just finish there.
Mm, yeah, I think I've been thinking in the terms of how usually before so before this time of the year would feel very rushed, especially like whilst I was a student. It's like end of the semester, you have exams, and I work in management consulting, and then like everyone's wrapping up, all of your clients are wrapping up, so you need to be wrapping up, and like deadlines are crazy. And this year I don't feel like I don't have the same amount of pressure as I did before, but I still feel same physiologically because I
Mm,
think I have felt uh that kind of anxiety and pressure from deadlines and everything building up for so many years that I'm just
yeah.
now used to it.
Yes. Yeah. And I think we almost invent the we use the end of the year as like a line in the sand, as it like a symbolic marker, and you sort of think that you have to have nothing left in your list. I've actually just started, it's next year, a list for January. So when I think of things, I can just put it on there
Yeah,
instead of thinking, oh, that's something that I need to do before the end of the year, and sort of think, well, actually, what things do actually need to be done. So yeah, I've got two things happening the first week of January. So I'm like, right, well, I need to do those now, but everything else can wait.
yeah. Oh,
Mm.
100%, especially because like I've always been curious about that as a child. Like, why did we decide on January? Like, what's so special about January
Mm.
1st? And then, but Chinese have their own New Year's, other cultures
Yeah,
have their own lines in the sand.
yeah.
So at the end of the day, it's just a date that
Hmm.
starts with 1-1. And
Yeah.
yeah, so I think that in especially with like, if the last 2 years have taught me anything, it's like to be gentle and non-judgmental towards
Mm.
myself,
Yes.
and that this winter Christmas holiday season is one other area where I'm trying to apply that to, because I'm trying to kind of not get carried away with the madness happening outside,
Mm.
because technically it's just another social construct.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, let's not worry about those. The world is not going to end if I don't do everything before
Yeah.
Christmas time. So
Yes.
it's going to be good. Um, and okay, similar on this kind of work topic, you've written an article for us some months ago, and it was all
Mhm.
about how you became employed actually very early on in your career and life, and you have worked for the bank for 13 years, right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
And what happened then?
Yeah, so I've been there 13 years. I started there when I was 19 after I'd actually been to university for 3 months, and then I'd left. It wasn't for me, and I just got this job in the bank because I thought I don't know, I needed a job basically. And yeah, I ended up working there for 13 years and really, I mean, obviously lots of ups and downs, but generally really enjoyed being there. And then, yeah, suddenly the team that I was working in, they decided that they didn't need that team anymore and that all of us were going to be made redundant. And yeah, it was like a big, it's not a big shock because people get made redundant in big companies like that all the time. You know, it's one of the biggest banks in the world. It happens all the time. But I was surprised at how much of a shock it was when it actually did happen, even though you've always kind of thought maybe it could happen.
And how did you navigate that time? As like as you said, like it was your, so you started working then there at 19 and then worked for 13 years. So like for almost like half of your life,
Yep.
you worked there. And
Yeah.
like that's a big thing.
Yeah. And pretty much all of my adult life, you know, so it's like almost everything that I knew about the world, I knew through the frame of that organization. You know, you're a child really when you're 19. So, and I literally, it was like a week after my 19th birthday. So I was only just 19. And you know, most of my friends work there. Just like kind of my whole life was like built around it. I'd moved house to partly for a relationship and partly to be closer to the head office so I could go and do a job in the head office. And yeah, just it was completely, it's like life altering, I suppose. And I think I found it particularly difficult because I think sometimes I always think there's like there's different types of redundancies. You know, there's sometimes just where like a company's struggling and there's like nothing else they can do.
Yeah.
There's sometimes where maybe you decide, oh well, you know, we've got 100 people doing this job, but we're going to change it so that we only need 50 people. And sometimes, and this is what happened to me, which obviously this is the only one I've experienced, but it felt really, really personal, was I was the only person that did my job. And what they decided was that team didn't need to exist anymore. So that it felt really personal. So even though I knew that, like, you know, that is a business decision at the end of the day, and you know, you can say, oh well, you know, it's all done on you know, piece of paper with job title, it's the job that's going, not you. But when you're the only person doing that job, I'm like, yeah, but you knew what that meant. You knew that meant me and my team. So that was I think something else I had to navigate was that everyone who I was the line manager of, they were all being made redundant as well. So you feel a responsibility. So even though there was you know, the bank had like appointed somebody to support them, I'm still the person who for the last couple of years that they've been having these like conversations about their hopes, dreams, career plans, all of that sort of thing. So yeah, it's like kind of trying to support all of them whilst also going through it myself. So
Wow.
yeah, it was overwhelming, really.
Wow. I can't even imagine how, yeah, it must have felt to go through such a huge change yourself, but also having to worry and care about all of the people who were part of your team. That's
Yeah,
that's a big load.
yeah, and I think it's hard then because they all felt differently about it. But you need, you know, some of them, you know, if you're in your late 50s and it means that you can retire early with some money, you might be quite happy about it compared to somebody who maybe is in the first couple of years of their career and it's really stressful. I think as well, what's important to know is like in an organisation the size of HSBC, you can often, when you get made redundant, you can apply for other jobs within. Oh, are you getting some feedback? I can hear myself talking back at myself.
No, I only hear you clearly. Weird.
Okay. Weird. Okay, we'll try again. So I could just hear myself echoing back. Yeah, so there are so many jobs at a place like HSBC that you and you have kind of usually like 3 months. You know that you're going to get made redundant, then it's a couple of months before it's like official, and then you've got your notice period. And during all of that time, you could apply for other jobs within the bank. So it doesn't always necessarily mean that you definitely are going to leave. And I had always, so my whole career, I had thought, if I get made redundant, I'll just get another job in the bank. Like, I'll just go and work in my local branch or whatever it is. But when it actually came to it, I think for me, I think that it shattered something that I had felt like I said, that place was like, my life was built around it. And it felt like, we're in a relationship where it's like family, right? To the point where, like, I use this example a lot, like, sometimes big companies will do things that then the press and other people are like, oh my God, I can't believe they did that. And when you like internally, you're like, no, I can't believe you did it either. I thought better of you. But publicly, you're like, you'll defend them, right? Like as if that's kind of what it's like with a member of your family. And I think suddenly something shifted where I realized, oh, like this is a one-sided thing. I feel this way about you. You don't feel this way about me.
Yeah.
And once that's changed, it can't go back. It's like it's like a trust in a relationship's broken.
Yeah.
So suddenly I thought, well, actually, I'm only going to stay if there's a job that really is going to push me forward into what I actually want to really do in my career. And I'd been spending more and more time at that point doing things around diversity and inclusion, getting involved with employee networks and some of the like global forums. So I decided, right, like that's what I want to do. If I can get a job in the bank doing that, then I'll stay because that'll look good on my CV. And then if I'm in this situation again in 2 years' time or whatever, then I've made a decision for me instead of for the organisation. And if I can't get a job doing that, then I'll leave. And yeah, I mean, I applied for a global diversity and inclusion manager job, and I think I got down to like the last two, and then I didn't get it. So that was sort of it then, choice made. It's time to go. But yeah, it was still a big decision. But I think that's one of the biggest things that happened for me was that sort of that trust had gone. I still like look back fondly. I don't have like loads of terrible things to say about working there. But yeah, just something had changed for me.
Yeah, I think that lesson is something that a lot of us go at one point in our lives where like only if I look back on how much of my own time and energy and effort I've put into working for other people in my own work experience, it's when I say to my partner, to my friends, they're like, that's insane, because why would you like work 16 hours for someone else? Because technically you're replaceable, right? It's not, yeah, it's not a two-sided relationship. It's not that you have something, yeah, kind of special going on. Just like you're almost like a number. There are, of course, some companies that try and change their company culture so people don't feel like that. But I think that's still like in a small minority
Yeah.
of companies worldwide. And
And they still, right, I think there's almost three types, because there are the ones that genuinely do that, and then the ones that, and I'm sure they want to believe that that is the case, but when it comes to it, when a decision's got to be made, you'll happily let those people go. And really, if it was a family, you would do everything you could to keep and protect those people.
yeah,
So I think there are lots of companies that want to think that they're different, but really when it comes down to it, they're not. And making money and making profit is more important.
yeah. I think um, what I love seeing is like I know a couple of smaller, let's say like around 50-ish people in size companies that have made their way through being completely employee owned. And that's something that I love, because that I think is almost like the ultimate testament of how it's like the company is the people, right? That's something that it's not like, okay, we are a machine that makes money and uses people to get the money.
Yep.
But it's like, okay, we are like, our company is our people, and I that's something that I really appreciate and will definitely be looking in my own entrepreneurial journey, looking how can I achieve that as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's something I've become really interested in. I'm sure we'll kind of, I'm sure it's fine if we jump around a
Oh,
little bit.
yeah, yeah.
But so one of the things that I'm doing now is that I am studying. So I have now gone to university after leaving the first time around. And I've been getting really interested in like studying work from a sociological perspective, and thinking about just why is work the way that it is, like learning about different, as you say, different models of how you can run businesses. And I just had an email come through today about it says something like, oh, what does $30 million get you? And it was like, oh, you can like go to space with Jeff Bezos, you can do something else with Elon Musk, or you can be the CEO of Visa. Right, that's the salary for the CEO of one company, and it's saying that's like 200 times what the lowest paid employee there gets paid, and they're wanting. So I think it's somewhere that I've got a little bit of pension invested, and so therefore I can like vote on these things. So it's voting on executive pay, and it's kind of like I think that's a question we can ask that says, is the CEO of Visa 200 and something times more important than the lowest paid member of staff there? And I think we all agree probably not. So how have we got to this point? Who decides?
Yeah.
Is everyone in the organization? Surely if a job exists, you're saying it's important, so therefore aren't all the jobs important? And I think some really interesting stuff's going to start to happen, as you say, around entrepreneurship and the way that people run businesses, the way that they share the profits from those businesses. I think there's some exciting stuff to come.
100%, and definitely something that I'm also kind of curiously tapping in and keeping like tabs on is blockchain, because I think in the future it will it will become one of, and this is like just like a tangent on the conversation. In the future, I think it will offer kind of business models that are built on blockchain, because the equivalent of employee-owned company is something that's possible to be done with things like DAOs and NFTs and things like that, because now you have the IP ownership of whatever you're doing, of everything in the company. So instead of kind of like owning stock of the company, you will be able to get like different different possibilities of, what's the term? I can't remember the word. It's not a compensation, but it's is it? Okay.
Could be.
Different ways of getting compensation, or actually owning the business. So that's something I'm really excited about, but I think we are a bit like, it's still the early days and it still needs to be a lot more greener to be sustainable. But it's really exciting.
Yeah, but then I heard something, and I don't really know very much, but basically I listened to one podcast about crypto, and now I think I know what I'm talking about. A millennial thing to do. But something that they were saying on, so it's really interesting, was saying, crypto blockchain is getting all of this stuff around climate, really getting pushed around emissions and things. Nobody's calculating how much emissions the banks are using. They've got huge buildings. Think how many buildings they've got, computers they've got, staff they've got, buildings, all of these kind of things, head office buildings, branch buildings. So is that fair to be holding the sort of new players to the market to a different standard? And then also the big banks are also like investing in fossil fuels and things like that as well. So I think that maybe the big banks are sitting back and thinking, oh yeah, you have a go at them for that. And I'm not sure that our current banking system is any better sustainability wise.
That's a good point. And to come back to banks and jobs. So
Yeah.
you said that you didn't get the global diversity manager
No.
job. So what happened then?
Yeah. So then I had pretty much decided by that point that I was going to leave. And then it was sort of, I went through a bit of time of like panic of what, kind of what did that mean? So, I'm not going to, and I really appreciate that redundancy is different for every single person because it depends on your family situation. It depends on, how long you've worked there for, all of these kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'll say is that for me, financially, I was probably the amount of money that I was going to get in my redundancy pay was more money than I'd ever had in my savings account before. It was like the equivalent to a year's salary.
Mm-hmm.
And at first, I felt a huge pressure that I thought, well, I need to save that money because, as I said, I've not had that much money before, so I need to
Yeah.
save it, which means that straight away I need to go into another job that earns the same amount of money.
Yeah.
Um, and and then I started to think, like, is that the case? Do you need to do that? Because you would have spent that money, right? I was not clearly spending that much money every year. So
Yeah.
I was like, well, you do spend that money anyway. And I think where it really occurred to me was I applied for a job at another bank, a diversity inclusion manager job, and then I got invited to an interview. And when I got the invite for the interview, I just thought, what are you doing? If you're just going to go and work in another bank, you may as well stay. Like, because all you're going to do is lose all of the sort of experience and relationships and understanding of one organization, and you're going to go and work in one that's probably really similar, but you're just not going to have the sort of backing, I guess, of 13
Yeah.
years of
Yeah.
history. So I thought, no, don't do it. And I emailed them and said, thanks, but no, I'm not going to come. And I think that was the moment where I decided, right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pay myself for a year from this money, and I'm just going to like see what happens. And at that point, what that meant for me was, so I'd just done a coaching qualification through the bank. So we were piloting, putting managers through this coaching qualification with an external company that was like recognised by International Coaching Federation, that sort of thing. I actually found out that I'd passed that the day after I found out I was getting made redundant. So it was like quite a nice sort of like timeline on that, I guess. And as I had also been getting more and more involved in particularly the gender balance network at the organisation.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really frustrated about the gender pay gap. And yeah, so that's when I sort of kind of brought all of that together and thought, I'm going to have a go at starting my own business. And at that point, it was all focused around coaching and training. Those are things that I had background in, understanding of. And yeah, just decided I was going to give that a go and see where I was. And I was like, if in a year's time I've spent all of the money and I haven't made any money, then fine, I can go and get another job then. And I'm like no worse off really than I would
Yeah.
have been.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I look back now and I just think I could not have known at that point what that next year was going to bring. So to bring people into the context, so this is July 2019. So July 2019, I leave the bank, and 1st of August, I start this business. I think it was January 2020 that the first person paid, no, December 2019, the first person paid me. I then had a few more things came up. I did a few things for International Women's Day, March 2020. And I mean, I sort of basically what happened within the course of a year, it was like kind of nearly 6 months before anyone even paid me. During that time, my relationship broke down, and as I said, I was living like not close to home. So I moved house, like over 100 miles, to come back to like the town where I grew up. My relationship broke up. I lost my job of 13 years. I started a business, and then there was a global pandemic. And like all of that happened between July 2019 and March 2020. So it was like a really, really yeah, just like intense amount of stuff to happen within that
Yeah,
time.
to put it
Um,
lightly.
yeah, yeah. 'Cause sometimes I look back now and think, God. And I decided to apply to university, so I didn't start university until the September. But I decided that was before, that was the January. I think I decided to apply, and I think because it had always kind of stuck with me that I'd been quite clever in school, but had always like hidden it because it wasn't very cool. And yeah, I kind of guess I always felt like I could have gone to university and hadn't. And it also, if I'm honest, it felt like it would be a bit of a safety blanket because I would start that in the September and I would get a student loan, and it would mean that, the business didn't have to be like earning loads and loads of money.
Yeah,
Um, and so, yeah, I had intended that I would start the course and that would be, that would sort of supplement my work, that I would learn things in the degree that I would bring into my coaching business. But what I've actually found is that it's just pushed me in new directions. So I study sociology and politics, and yeah, it has just got me more and more interested in different things, and started to realize that maybe coaching isn't what I want to do, and like that's fine. And I think that's what I talk about in the article, is like, now I'm much more, people keep saying to me, oh, what are you gonna do when you finish university? I don't know. And I'm fine with, whereas before, like, I've always been someone who's like, well, I'm going to do this job and then this job and this job, and I want to earn this much money. And now I'm like, well, I don't know, I'm sure something interesting will come along that, like, I'll just do something that I find interesting. So yeah, that's kind of where things are now, that I'm much more like just doing the things that I find interesting, which that's what being a full-time student kind of allows me that space to do, I guess. I mean, obviously I've got to do all the studying, but being able to have the student finance and things like that. And I still do some work in terms like coaching and training work, but I'm no longer like marketing it. I don't like spend all of my time desperately trying to build that business, because
yeah,
I know in the long term that's not what I want to do.
yeah. Oh, I, I love this entire story because it portrays just how much, like, strength you had, and how basically you had like the worst possible sequence of events was like happened to you in a very short period of time, and you got the best, I feel, out of each and every one. Because like if you feel like, if you like, when you look at where you are now, just on the basis of that, you allow yourself something that a lot of people don't allow, which is like, okay, I am okay and fine with where I am now. The job doesn't define me, and having plans about jobs doesn't define me either. And it's fine that I don't have any like 3 year, 5 year, 10 year plans of where I want to be with respect to a job. You've actually reframed it to, okay, I'm going to do something that genuinely interests me and sparks my passion. And I think like, just like, very well done. I love it.
Thank you. Thanks. Yeah, and it's, yeah, just led me to like try new things, and but then also to like find the connections between the things that I enjoy.
Yeah,
And I think it helps you to start to, yeah, like understand yourself a little bit better, and you see all of the threads. I still see the threads running through. It's not like, and this is not to, what I'm about to say is not say that this is not the best thing either, but it's not like, I'm not like, oh, now I'm going to try being an astronaut and
yeah,
then I'm going to go and try be a farmer.
yeah,
It's more that I take, these threads of like, I love to speak, to communicate, to tell stories. That, I used to be a trainer. These are, yeah, like things that I enjoy to do. I've been really interested in not just gender equality, but all kinds of social justice, initially from like a workplace point of view, but that now threads through into my politics and I'm involved in the Women's Equality Party here in the UK. But also thinking about how do we, and I used to work, how do we get more women into leadership? Now I'm thinking, well, how do we get more women into politics? So like all of these things, like they do have strengths and connections.
Yeah.
And I can take the skills that I've used before. I've always been, the way that I've had success in my career has always been about building relationships and connections with people. So I used to hate people sometimes, oh, you're so good at networking, and I'm like, oh, gross, like that sounds awful. But it's more like, but I guess that's what it is. That's just my my issue with that word. But yeah, I just always want to get to know people, to help people. And that's the same thing now, is that suddenly I'm, I put myself forward for like a mentoring program, because then I get connected with people in the political world in Wales who I can then learn from, and they can introduce me to people. But yeah, like finding ways I can help people. And I've always been, if I ever see somebody that makes me feel a little bit jealous, what I do is I get in touch with them and I say, oh, I'm like, I love what you're doing, I'd love to hear more about it. And I make friends with them, because I can't feel bad towards my friends. I can only feel love and joy for them. So yeah, that's always been kind of my approach. And that's what I'm seeing now, is that actually I've got, oh my God, well, I've got no experience of like doing politics, but actually just by talking to people and being interested in them, actually you can build that network quite quickly, it turns out.
Yeah, and that's a very smart hack, I must say. But I think that, so what you said around, oh, my brain is so slow today, I don't know what's happening. um so what it feels like to me is that sometimes people think like, when you make a big change in your life, it's either like it's 0 or 1, it's A or B. It can't be two things at the same time, which technically it is. I think like it's a different framework, it's different perspective to be looking at, because you're not abandoning your skills and capabilities and your passions. You're just doing them in different mediums,
Yes.
and doing like using different channels to pursue whatever has been sparking you all this time.
Yeah.
And I think our society heavily relies on viewing things from the perspective of a job or a big organization or something like that. And it's still very weird to be like, I have no idea what I want to be doing or
Yes.
how. But kind of accepting the unknown, which COVID has definitely taught us, is, yeah, I just feel like we need to turn around more towards looking jobs and careers more of like, almost like an experiment.
Yes.
Because it's like, it's still and I had this conversation with Nicola, who's also a coach, and she said that she talked about defining your own values, and her point was like, but your personal values and your business values shouldn't necessarily differ, because you're still the same human being who shows up for work, whether you're working for yourself or for someone else. And I think that really kind of ties nicely into this almost like a new paradigm of which I'm kind of figuring out now. It's like, how you are doing something isn't important, even though it, like, I think in our society it's the how that's number one, where it should be why that's number one, and then the what and the how are less important, because we have like such a huge like portfolio of things to choose from of how we want to accomplish certain things.
Yeah. And it might be that different, just like, it doesn't mean that, I think what it found for me, so if I take the coaching as an example, and maybe this is a lesson that I've like had to learn twice now. So when I worked in the bank, my background is in branches, so working in the local branch on your high street. So for the first half of my career, that's where I worked. And then I went off and did jobs in the head office. And every now and again, I'd be like, oh, I want to go back to the branch. And then when I go back to the branch, I would remember I don't like working in a branch. And that mainly being, for me, was about what happens when you work in a branch and you're a manager of that team. You get to have a big impact on that team, and you coach and develop them, and you build really, tight-knit relationships with them. And lots of people get a huge amount of fulfillment from that. What happens when you work in more of like a head office type job is that you tend to have a big impact, a bigger scale impact on lots of people, but maybe they don't know you. So like one of the things I did was I designed the coaching and development framework for all of the staff in the branches. Well, they don't know me and I don't get to see them using it every day, but I've done something that's had an impact on 8,000 people.
Yeah.
Or I managed our charity partnership, and we worked with the marketing department to create a Christmas campaign, and then there were posters on every high street in the UK, so I could walk past those and be like, I did that, even though like nobody really knew. So, and that's what I get a buzz out of, is doing like the big stuff that I can actually see have some sort of impact in the world. And then it's almost like I forgot that, and because what coaching does is it gives you really deep relationships with those individual people, and you help those people. And I have, I've worked with some brilliant people, and I hope help them to get new jobs. I have this little post-it note of I've helped them get £114,000 in pay rises. We've done good work with them, but I realise I'm missing that like big stuff.
Yeah.
And I guess what I find is that some of the people I've been working with more around, I also do some coaching with small business owners when they're taking on teams. I've really loved that, because we get to have these like bigger conversations about, what is it you want it to feel like working in this organization. And I get to maybe do things on a slightly bigger scale, but I think that's what's really pushing me towards like politics and academia, is like, okay, I can work with individual people and help them to, maybe push change within a system, but how do I get to be somebody who's changing a system? And I don't see currently how we do that without having like political big system change. So that's where for me, I'm like, the underlying reasons behind it all are the same. It's just I'm finding like, where's my bit within this? And what it might be is that in a few years time, it might be that I find another way that I might be able to do that. But or maybe it's the mission that changes, so like those bits can sort of flow as you go along, I think. But it takes you time to learn these things.
Yeah, of course. And I feel like it feels, as I'm kind of typing, like as I'm trying to do explore similar ways of working and doing, it feels like I'm diversifying my approach towards fulfilling the goal that I want to fulfill. It's like, so, okay, whichever one works, I'm good with it.
Yes.
And I think that like it feels like how society has run in the past couple of generations is like, basically you finish school, you get a job, you work there for 45 years, and you retire.
Yeah.
Whereas now it feels like almost like a very sudden shift towards where us as millennials, like, we don't stay at the same job for more like 2, maybe 3 years. We shift jobs very often, or we go and become self-employed and become social entrepreneurs and stuff like that, which is very, very, very different to what our like parents or grandparents are used to seeing and how they're used to function. And I know how much kind of discomfort that can create in you in the beginning, because it's like it's like you feel you're not made for the system as it is
Yeah.
now, but at the same time, that's how almost like everyone tends to work and function, and then you're here trying to do something that seems completely crazy, but that you're very set on. I'm confident this will work, and I'm confident this is for me. But like you're one, and there are many.
Yes, yeah. I think as well, I wonder if you feel this way as well, kind of, see, I've stepped into this like small business entrepreneur space over the past couple of years, and
Yeah.
then I think it's a huge spoiler to say, so the business I've been running for the past couple of years is called As We Are, and I've sort of had an inclination for quite a bit of this year that I might want to move away from the stuff that I've been doing there. But I really resisted that for such a long time because it felt like a failure, because it felt like, oh, and this in a couple of ways. So, everyone's going to think, oh, well, that business failed. Oh, she didn't manage to do what she wanted to do. Whereas actually, like, no, I've just changed my mind about what I want to do.
Yeah.
And I think that, and for now, what that means for me is I'll focus on my studying, and I also will probably just create like a freelance brand. It's Hanna Andersen. I'll still have my newsletter. I'll still take all of the bits I really enjoy from it and still do those. But also, I'm not ruling out one day having an employed job again, and then maybe starting another business.
Yeah.
I think there seems to be this huge pressure that like when you start a business, that then has to make you a millionaire,
Yeah.
or last forever, otherwise you failed. Whereas like, no, like that's what I did for 2 years, in the same way that I might have done a job for 2 years.
Yeah.
My job for 2 years was that I was a coach at As We Are, and now I'm not. Like, nobody, if I was leaving a job after 2 years, everyone would be like, oh, congratulations. Whereas everyone's like, oh golly, oh, the businesses, oh, you're finishing it up, and like, why is this different? So
Yeah.
yeah, I think sometimes like small business and entrepreneurship is like venerated, like as sort of held up as being progressive and different, when really there's all the same expectations there, and all these like weird rules there as well.
I relate, especially because like throughout I don't know, the last 10 years approximately, I've had a lot of side hustles, to call them like that, and I've been labeled as person who never finishes what they started. Exactly, and it's exactly that same frame and perspective that you've just described. Whereas, like, I just get like I either achieved my own goal of I wanted to try how it feels, and can I do it? And then I was like, I can, and now I'm bored, so now I don't want to pursue it anymore. It's like, okay, I'm on to the next thing. Whereas for someone, they get like so closely attached to, oh, but this is what you do now. Like, you need to be doing this for the blah 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 blah. Blah, blah, blah. It's like, but I'm bored. Like, no, no, I don't like if I'm, especially now when I'm self-employed and try to create. I don't even know what. I can't marry myself to one singular idea. Because that's not how I work, and that's not how I function. I appreciate that someone will be a doctor or a lawyer for their entire career, but I can't do that. I physically cannot do that, because I will get so depressed in doing the same thing over and over that doesn't challenge me, that I don't learn something new. And for the past like year and a half, basically, also as a spoiler, because I haven't literally announced this anywhere yet, I'm founding an incubator for creative female entrepreneurship here in Zagreb, Croatia. And the way that started is in the first lockdown, so March 2020, Zagreb was also hit by an earthquake, and that completely knocked me over, pun intended. And, and I started illustrating, which I haven't done in my life. I've never ever done it. And I started posting illustrations on Instagram, as a lot of people did. Kind of, they went back to their either childhood hobbies or like their side hustles during the pandemic. And I came to know a lot of creative female entrepreneurs who were just either starting out and building their businesses. And as a management consultant, I was more passionate and inclined in helping them develop their business than I was at illustrating. Even though,
Yeah.
of course, I gave it a go. Like I opened my Etsy shop and all of these things, and that was fun until I was like, check mark. I've done this, I've done this, and then it's
Yeah.
like it's like running a small business. It's like you do these same things over and over again, which is again not something that aligns with how I
Yeah.
usually work. And then I was like, okay, but I really enjoy helping these women. And I, at first glance, I thought maybe I can do an online community where I offer them education and support and mentoring and stuff like that. But I was like, but online doesn't feel very me because I dislike being online all the time and
Yeah.
always available. I more prefer building relationships face to face. And I want to have kind of like not a measurable impact in terms of I will if it was an online and global, I will still affect the change that I want. But having it
Yeah.
local in Croatia, it's a different thing because like it's in a container of sorts,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
I feel like I can make more progress more quickly there, like that than if it was purely online. So like that plan checks all the marks.
Yes.
But when I look at how my kind of friends and family were like, they were like, oh, she got bored of something again. She got bored of
Yeah.
something again. I was like, no,
Yeah.
because if I didn't start illustrating and posting those things online, I will probably never go now to the point of where I'm like, tomorrow the applications for the incubator open and I'm going to be hopefully changing lives of many Croatian women.
Yeah.
Like that wouldn't happen if I
Yeah.
haven't changed my mind.
Yeah. 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 And I mean, I think back, like, okay, I worked at HSBC for 13 years. I probably had a new job every 2 years of that. And I think, and again, that was something I had to learn about myself. And in this, I was like, after 2 years of As We Are, I was like, oh, I kind of want to do something else. I was like, oh no, but I've got this business for the rest of my life now. And then I was like, no, you know this about yourself. You know that every two
Yeah,
years you're like, hey, I've done that. I've had a go. Like now I want to do something different. Like
yeah,
these things about yourself. So yeah, but I'm almost feeling like I have to learn these things about myself twice to
yeah.
really yes. Okay.
I, yeah, but to be fair, I don't think that it's necessarily your fault. It's just like the pressure, external pressure, trying to fit us back into the box that
Yeah.
we are supposed
Yeah.
to be sitting in. Where like
Yeah.
we're like I feel like I'm fluid everywhere, just like floating around in space,
Yeah.
very very fluidly. And what I've done now is like I chose to do two things, like two separate businesses that kind of they are almost like the same for me because they reflect the same values and goals that I want to achieve, but on the outside they look and feel different. But I have constructed them in a way so they are like evergreen. I can scale them as much as I
Mm.
want so that it's a high chance that I will never get bored because there's always so many more things
Yeah.
I could be doing. So I
Yeah.
kind of future proofed
Yeah.
them in order to be like, okay, this is what we're doing now. And
Yes.
when
Yeah.
you get bored, you can just like find a new challenge.
Yeah.
So like for the incubator, it can be at one time, instead of having a traditional web shop with storefronts of every participant in the incubator, that's like paid with your credit card, you can like we can have a shop filled with their own NFTs. And then
Yeah.
I'm also working on helping lowering the kind of the gender gap between how men and women approach crypto and investing and all of these things. So it's
Mm.
like it's another thing that I am delving in, but as part of the same business. So like
Yeah.
I'm happy with how I managed to future proof them, so that
Yeah.
it's like I feel this is what we're doing for the foreseeable future, but like there's million ways of how I can do them. So whatever I feel like, that's what I'll be doing.
Yeah. Exciting.
And what's next for you? So 2 years of SVR have passed, and now you're set like 2000. You're into something different. So what's in it? What does 2022 hold for Hanna?
Yeah, so so as I said, I'm going to be rebranding over to I'll just be me, Hanna Andersen. Yeah, and I think what that allows me to do, I hope, is to better just follow the things that I find interesting. So I really enjoy writing, so my newsletter will be coming back in the new year. This time really focused around helping or inspiring people to become change makers and think about what they can actually do to get involved in activism, campaigning, politics, whatever that might be, interviewing people who will inspire them to do that, and also giving them the tools that they need to be able to go and do that. So that's the one part. Of course, still studying. And I actually got to go and do a 5-week work placement as part of my course next year. So I will be doing that with the Women's Equality Party, I've just started a local branch. Well, I say local, it's an online branch for the whole of Wales. So it is local, but it's a countrywide one. So I'm kind of building that as well. I've taken on the role as the branch leader for that. So that's like a voluntary piece that I'm doing. And hopefully I'm on a mentoring programme around political and public life in Wales. My mentor is so cool. She's the Future Generations Commissioner for Wales. So Wales is the first country in the world that has created a law that says that public bodies have to take into account how the decisions they make today will affect the unborn children of Wales. So if you do something today, what does that mean? So we've just stopped building all new roads to look and say, well, actually, are there better ways that we can improve transport that's not encouraging more cars on the road, because that's going to mean something for the children in 20 years time. So yeah, she's got a pretty cool job kind of holding people to account on that sort of thing. So yeah, excited that's a 9-month program that's just getting started. And yeah, I'm also really kind of working on how do we make politics more accessible for people who are not currently in politics. And yeah, so me and my friend are doing some work around helping schools to have better conversations about politics and social issues as well. So yeah, lots of things that hopefully kind of sit together in the same kind of ballpark, really around me wanting to improve representation, which has been something I've also focused on in business. Now I'm sort of thinking more about in politics and public life as well. So yeah, bringing everything together, hopefully. And
Awesome. That sounds very exciting, and I know that as with everything you've done so far, you'll ace it, especially because it's a lot of like a lot of new learning and challenging things, which makes it very fun. So
yeah. Holds the attention.
yeah, awesome. And where can people find you currently? And will you be changing your like Insta handle and website things?
Yeah. So my Instagram currently is asweare.uk. I will change it, but I'm trying to find something to change it to. But yeah, you'll still find me. But I'm Hanna Andersen, Hanna with no H at the end, and Andersen, SEN. I have a Danish mum, hence all the non-anglicized spelling of the names. And yeah, I mean, I already have the website, but it is not up and running. So that's hannaandersen.co.uk, I think. So yeah, at some point I'll shift over to that, and my handles will change over as well. But yeah, I'd love to have a chat to people.
Awesome. So yeah, everyone who feels inspired by Hannah's story, or everyone or anything that she's doing, reach out to Hannah and yeah, follow her now at SVR, so that once she changes the handles, you're out. You know immediately where you can find her. Okay, awesome, Hannah. Thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.